I'm Paul Roberts of Conscious Counseling 101. I'd like to talk today about coping mechanisms. With Conscious Counseling 101, we always want to make sure we're completely knowing ourselves, completely undelusional, completely understanding what we're doing whenever we do it. If we understand it, it can help us. If we don't understand it, it can hurt us. One of the reasons why I use a lot of coping mechanisms is because I go out there very far on the road less traveled. I go into concepts and analyzation, a very heightened fathoming of man. When I do this, and I also start off knowing I can't know anything, it's very difficult to carry the weight that I come back with each examination. It's very difficult to carry the weight that I know that I can't know anything, and I can't be delusional and convince myself that I can know just so that I'm comforted. So it's very difficult for me to go out there, gain on whatever thing it is that I'm looking at any given time, and bring it back without suffering damage, without being broken, not able to keep up that pace. The road to heightened conscious can be a difficult one, but it isn't one that you won't be able to accomplish if you just set your mind to it, because the mind is stronger than that which you know to seek, and the mind will aid you beyond what you even can make it aid you. But when you see it aiding you, then you go ahead and you look at what it's doing, and then you got two things to analyze: the original thing you analyzed before, but also the thing that you're now analyzing is yourself. Self-analyzation, introspection is so important because you're gaining in multiple ways. You're gaining to understand how you're coping in your subconscious, as well as how you're consciously coping with your conscious. Training your subconscious to cope. The common population just exists in the real world, does what they need to do to get by, does what they need to do to suppress all the issues that they're dealing with, things that are too large for them that they wouldn't do normally on a regular basis if they had to also do this difficulty of trying to make a living and everything, raise families, things like that. A lot of people don't want to go down that road. There's less travel. It's just too difficult. But I am here to assure you that if you do go down that road that is less travel, your mind will help you to learn and grow, not only in your original voyage, but in the difficulties that come to you. I have to create a mental picture of what I'm doing. Assure myself that that mental picture is worth striving towards. And this includes honor, this includes integrity, this includes faith, this includes fathoming beyond what man can know, this includes trusting that there's more than just what we see every day. This includes so many things. I personally look at the studies of Jesus' teachings. But I mean, there's a lot of religions that all where through time man has tried to do this. What I've done is ultimately said, I can't find anybody that's got a higher thing other than what I've found through history in Jesus' teachings. So I go ahead and say, well, I can't do that on my own. So there's a person that once lived that was greater than me, that I couldn't have come up with all that concept by myself. And so that's one of the reasons why I study it and have a measure of faith that's high enough and strong enough to get me by, because I couldn't have done it. I go into the realm of belief in something larger than myself. I encourage people to do that, because when you do and you go out there, what you're really doing is you're testing. You're filtering everything, seeing whether or not what you see measures up with the model that was created for us. Now, Jesus did models that had to do with heaven and earth, had to do with how they compare, so that the common man can kind of understand the outer worldly things. And what that model does is it gives you ability to look at something. There's something more there than what you just see. And you go and compare, are these things really happening in this model that I can see? Come back if you're truthful to yourself. Hopefully the answer that you're going to get is the right one. Hopefully the answer that you're going to get is, sure enough, that's the answer I got. I got the answer, yeah, sure enough, it's exactly what is said. This person knew these things, pointed them out to me. So I am a student of this teacher, and I'm an advocate of him. I've used what he's taught, compared it, and saw that it's real. Because of that, I want to give more faith, more bolstering of faith. These are coping mechanisms. I mean, that sounds derogatory, but I think what Jesus gives you in the teachings is the ability to go harder at our task, become wiser, become more intelligent, become more consciously aware than we would have naturally. Because if we just venture out a little bit, more comes back. That's so important to realize, because if we don't have faith that we can do that, well, what would make us want to venture out in the first place? Go outside of our comfort zone. And I think that has a lot to do with what the symbology that Jesus used is knock and the door will be open to you. If God, our Creator, exists, or Jesus exists, not only will He do that in the realm of labeling it, it's from them, but He'll also do it in a secular way if you're not ready to jump that next chasm yet, to assign your labeling to that's where it's coming from. You just want to see, did the Creator know what your mind was capable of? Did the Creator's person who said that He was sent from the Creator know what your mind was capable of? Did He give you the ingredients you needed to go down that hard road? Test it out. Now, some of the other coping mechanisms that I want to talk about are nostalgia. From a very young child, I was aware of a lot of things. As an artist, from age, I think I became an artist with creativity at a very early age. It just exploded in my mind. And I have to thank my father for this, because my father was, in some ways, an artist. He was an architect. He had studied art in school a little bit. One time when I was about 3 or 4 years old, barely able to speak very well, I was in my bedroom, sitting on my bed, reading some of my nighttime stories. My dad was in there painting the shelf, and the wood was just bare. He started to paint it red, and I just let him paint while I was looking at my books and everything, and I looked up, and all of a sudden I noticed the whole shelf's painted red, with the exception of my name spelled out in unpainted wood. That resonated so strongly to me as a child that you could write something in a negative. Not write it, but leave it open and have it written. That was one of the first impressions that I ever got that led me down the road to art and analytical thinking. And this was at 3 or 4. I also had some problems with my mother and father, seeing that they were having problems, and tried to counsel them and talk with them at a very early age. I saw the difficulties at those ages, 3 and 4. When I got to be 6, I saw more. And that was when I first started to try to talk to them. And then when I got to be 3rd grade, I actually counseled with them. Of course, I couldn't say anything, but I tried to counsel them so that they would see the value that I'm showing to them, and just did my best to counsel them a couple of times when they were having some difficulties. Now, this left in me an idea that I was going to counsel. I was going to look at the problems in front of me and try to help people with them. So you take the creativity, you take the counseling, you put those together, you take the analytical thinking that's accompanied me all the days of my life, and you get a person who's very, very, very much into the focus of the heightened conscious thing. When you get to be an adult, you realize there's so much more, and the world around you doesn't support it, doesn't see it, won't help you with it. You've got to be kind of like Socrates, and you've got to say, I'm going to learn from the world whether you help me or not. And that's what I do. But when you do that, you have certain difficulties, because those around you won't see what you're seeing. They don't understand it. Even your family, if you connect with them on a regular basis, there's still a limit to what they can see and perceive, because they're not you, and they can't go down that road. I have people in my own family that I could sit and I could talk about these things. They're too far removed. I know Jesus, one of the times Jesus said, a prophet is never respected in his own country. Sometimes I feel like the road that is less traveled leaves me feeling lonely, because I can hardly find anybody on it a lot of times. I say, is all this just a scratch of the surface for people? They don't know how to get into it either. They don't understand what it all means either, but they just gotta go to drink one more time and say, what is he saying? What's he doing? What's he saying? Is there any measure that I can think about it in my mind? One of the great coping mechanisms that I've hoped for and asked for in some of these videos is that you respond in some way. You don't have to ask for help, but if you respond in some way, then I have more feeling that I'm accomplishing something, in the sense that at least I'm getting what I had to say as an individual out there. When I chose the screen name was Artsy1, because I went to art school and everything was artsy fartsy, and there was so much artsy fartsy stuff, and very few people really knew how to draw or paint, and the ideas were just so wishy-washy and all over the place. And what I came to know in art school was what art is not. I came to see through analytical observation and thinking, and what is worthwhile, what is real, and what is just crazy stuff that man gets into that titillates his sensibilities but doesn't lead him anywhere. Now, one of the things I'd like to be able to do is to have a few people saying, hey, I see some of the things, keep going. This is not art for art's sake. This is not for me. This is what I see. I don't need to share it to see it and benefit from it. My hope is that I can share this and someone else will also benefit from it, and then my work will have been added to my life purpose. That's about it, because I'm not going to gain anything more than what I'm doing analytically anyway. I'm not going to gain anything more from heightened conscious with sharing from someone else, because all I can do as a heightened conscious intellectual individual is consider all things. The best road to and wisdom is to consider all things, not push anything aside, but consider all things and decide what can be thrown away and what should be kept and why it should be kept and why it's not worthwhile, why it's a trip up stone for people to fall on, and why it's valuable and why nothing will kill it. These things lead to heightened intelligence, heightened conscious, and wisdom. A lot of people today in the world are getting all the way to an old age and there's no wisdom. They're just making it because there are pockets in society that you can live in to see you through. It's not like you're out there on the frontier and you're going to not make it unless you become wise and you figure out what you need to do. You can go all the way to old age, just if you're fortunate and you fall into a pocket of security. So what's happening is our society is dulling down. They're becoming less and less wise. They're not challenging themselves. They're not being forced to challenge themselves. They're not electing to challenge themselves. And what's happening is that the ability of the wise is not coming as frequently and as easily as those that were challenged in the olden days. I could do this on my own without sharing with you, but I'm sharing with you. Part of what makes me me, remember I told you the creative thing was what made me creative and analytical, but then also the troubles that I had seen in my own parents wanting me to counsel. That whole equation of who Paul is so that I can be something that is worthwhile for my life purpose and know that I've shared it. If I don't do that, I'm worthy of nothing. What am I doing? I'm hiding my talent in the ground. The master said to use those talents, reinvest them. The master will be pleased. He won't be pleased for someone that just gains what they need and hides them in the ground and says, here you go, you can have it back. So one of the things that I need you to say to me is, yeah, I heard some of the things you said. When you do that, I know that I've done what I need to do, and that's another coping mechanism. I'm comforted by the fact that I know that I've done something and been heard. That's important because an artist, they don't just work in a corner. They put their work up on the wall, right? This is my work. My thoughts, my heightened conscious thoughts, wisdom and intelligence is my work. Now, I don't go out there and make a marketable product. And the reason why I don't do that, and I've said it on a couple other videos in different ways, is because if anybody that would have can't get because of a cost involved, I failed someone. And I believe in the Good Shepherd parable that Jesus taught, that we are to go to the ends of the world for anyone that would have. So I am forbidden, according to my own understanding and wisdom, to make something that I have to give inaccessible to someone. That's why it's so important that you understand why I'm doing this. And if you have any inkling whatsoever that you can help, do so. The coping mechanisms that I want to talk about are just what you need to do to go on that difficult journey, to continue to go on. Don't be delusional. Understand everything you do and why you do it. Go forth rather than not, so that your talent is not hidden in the ground. What fruits from the bounty will come are not only whatever you touch that you don't see, but you'll gain, not necessarily the ability to see if you've done anything, even though it would be nice, right? Everybody would like to have a little bit of that. But you'll gain the ability to have something more come back to you, because you'll force yourself to set forth in place things that are going to make you do mental gymnastics. And just by the pure having to do those mental gymnastics, you'll give gifts to yourself. Now that's a hard one to explain. Unless you're one of those people that does that, then you'll come to see. But what I'm saying is, don't go down this road just for gain. Oh gosh, don't go down it for gain. Go down this road because it's the right thing for humanity and for your Creator's desire for what you do for yourself. But when you find it hard to bear your cross daily, know that also gain will come. And I would say, put that in the Creator's, check it off, say, look, I know this is my mind, but you gave me this mind. Maybe I'm not ready to credit you for that yet, but by golly, I'm going to play with that mind. I was talking with my parents when they visited recently, and I said, you don't know anything. You don't know about the things you think you know, and you can't prove any of the things you think you know. And they go, oh yeah, oh yes we can, yes, of course. And I just, in a few moments, they went all the way from of course to, oh yeah, you're right, we can't. But in a daily trance, they go around thinking they know everything. This is difficult because this means there's not enough introspection. This means there's not enough faith. This means there's not enough testing the waters of the studies. This means that you're just comforted and that you'll be taken care of. And that's all you need to do. That's dangerous. And as a gift, I try to help them to see why it's dangerous, because you don't do anything. It's all they could do. They're hiding their talent in the ground. I tried to explain that to them because I want to have them reflect, because they might forget. They might not think. I might say something one day that's different than another day, and maybe it'll register something. We can't know anything. And because we can't know anything, all our energies in Conscious Counseling 101 are to assure us that what we're doing is the best we can do and be. And all our energies are placed to making whatever it is we think we need to have assured to us that we have it, because then we will. And that's not a delusion. You put a lot of energies to make sure it's not a delusion. You're truthful with yourself. You're doing everything you can for your life purpose. You're going down the road less traveled. You're developing whatever coping mechanisms and armor you need to go forth. And then you're gaining what you gain, and you're hoping what you hope, that somebody will benefit. And what is that? That's a life of service. The dedication to that is worthy of a person, an individual. A person is worth his worth. Help out by the smallest amount of commenting back. I remember when I was a young boy and I was doing art, I did it all the time. But a few times we framed something and put it on the wall, and all of a sudden that was bigger. It was the same piece that you did. All the concepts were the same. All the art that was the same, the working, everything was the same. But somehow it got bigger because it's there. That step is a helpful step to those that struggle, to those that endure, to those that bear their cross, to those that walk the road less traveled. We should all be encouraging, as Jesus said, to not forsake the gathering of ourselves together. Anybody in the world that bothers to come to you and say, hey, I'm one of you, you're one of the ones I'm gathering with, that removes my judgment. Because if you do it by the sheer nature that you do it, I don't have to decide. You went that extra length, and now you deserve the benefit of the doubt and the accolades for it. But give that free gift of encouragement, as I know you need it on the difficult road, and I try to give to you. I wish you well in your travels.